Now, let's start with the next topic of this chapter, and that is arrays. So, in your notebook, give this heading C, arrays. Now, how do you define an array? So, an array is a collection of elements in which all the elements must be of the same data type. So, you can have an array of 5 elements where all the 5 elements are int or all the 5 elements are double, but you cannot have an array in which some elements are of data type int and some double. Now, let's understand how to create an array, how to declare an array. So if you want to declare an array, you will write two statements in Java. This is the first one. Now what this statement will tell the compiler. Now while I'm explaining to you, what you should do is, you should look at the correspondence between what I'm saying and where this mouse pointer is pointing. Pay attention to the correspondence, okay? So now over here the square bracket means an array. So this statement tells the compiler that there is going to be an array of integers called x. I repeat, it tells the compiler that there is going to be an array of integers called x. So if you really paid attention, tell me, after this statement, how much memory will be allocated for array x? The answer is none. No memory is allocated. This statement simply tells the compiler that there is going to be an array. Till now, memory is not allocated. Now, to actually allocate the memory, we write this statement. Now, in this statement, do you see any word which is new to you? It is the keyword new. Now, what you should do is pause the video and first of all write the meaning of the word new, and that meaning is dynamic memory allocation. So in your notebook, preferably at the very top of the page where that blank space is there, over there you write that new means dynamic memory allocation. Come on, pause the video and do that. Okay, so I hope you did that. So here onwards, whenever you come across this word new, you should understand one thing, that whenever you see this word new, it means that memory will be allocated at runtime. Dynamic means runtime, okay? Alright, now once again, what this statement will tell the compiler? So pay attention to the pay attention to the correspondence between what I'm saying and where this mouse pointer points. So this statement tells the compiler that please allocate memory for an integer array of 5 elements which will be called x. Please allocate memory for an integer array of 5 elements which will be called x. So now the compiler will create the array and it will look something like this. Don't forget that these are the position numbers of the array, which will always start with 0. So if you have an array of n elements, the position numbers will be from 0 to n minus 1. Okay? Alright. Now if you want, you can even combine the two statements like this. So whether you write these two statements or this single statement, it means one and the same. Now before I proceed, I have a question for you. Can you tell me that in Java, memory is allocated to array at what time? At what time means compile time or runtime? The answer is runtime. Don't forget that. In C language, it was compile time. In Java, it is runtime. One more syntactical detail. This statement, int x square bracket, okay? This statement can also be written like this. So whether you write a square bracket after data type or after the array name, it means one and the same. Now what you should do is, you should copy these things in your printed notes, okay? PN means printed notes. So in your printed notes, look, this statement, this one, you will copy under point number 1 over here. Alright. Then this statement, this one, okay? This you will copy under point number 2 over here, and over here you see lots of space, so over here you will copy this entire thing. See what I'm encircling, this entire thing which I'm encircling, this you should copy under that point. Okay, so pause the video and do that. Come on. Okay, now let's move ahead. So till here you saw how to declare an array. Now let's see how to initialize an array. So if you want to initialize an array, you write a simple statement like this, pretty simple. Okay, I don't think this statement needs an explanation. Tell me, Now what will be the value of x of 0? 11, x of 1, 22, x of 2, 33. Okay, so this is the syntax for array initialization. Okay, now remember one thing, that when you are initializing an array, you cannot write new and the array dimensions. That means the keyword new will not come anywhere in array initialization, and moreover you cannot even mention the dimension over here. If you do that, Java will report an error. Okay, so copy this and then we'll move ahead. All right, you'll copy the earlier thing in your notebook. The part of initializing an array you'll copy in your notebook. Okay, now let's take the topic of multi-dimensional array or two-dimensional array. Now one thing which you need to understand is that the array which you did in the earlier subtopic was a one dimension array, okay, a single dimension array. Now we'll study a two dimension array, more popularly called a matrix. So a matrix is basically a two dimension array in which there are rows and columns. Now how to declare a two dimension array, multi-dimension array? So very simple. All you need to do is just put one more pair of square brackets. So now I'll write this and this. See, it is similar to what you have studied earlier. Tell me one thing, how much memory will be copied after, how much memory will be allocated after this statement? The answer is none. This statement simply tells the compiler that there is going to be a two-dimension array of integers called m. But this statement does not allocate memory. Memory allocation is done now. Now what do you think, looking at this statement, what do you think is the name of the matrix? Well, it is M. What will be its data type? It will be int. How many rows it will have? 3 rows and 2 columns, and it will look like this. Okay, I hope you all know that this is the row. Okay, the one which is horizontal is the row and the one which is vertical is the column. So there are 3 rows and 2 columns. Moreover, just like C language, this is row number 0, this is row number 1 and this is row number 2, this is column number 0 and this is column number 1. So if you have an element located here, we'll call that element m of 20. Okay, I repeat, it will be called m of 20. So m of 20 means that element of m which is at row number 2 and column number 0. Okay, now can you combine the two statements? Of course you can. All right, this way. All right, so this is the way things will work over here. Now once again, before we proceed, just copy all this. Come on, do that. Yeah, and one more thing. Okay, see, this statement which you saw over here, this statement which you saw over this one, it can also be written like this. Okay, that means you can put a square bracket after data type, and surprisingly like this also. Okay, quite weird, quite absurd, but you can write it this way. So in your own words, you write a note that this statement, this one, can also be written like this, and copy everything in your notebook. Okay, now how to initialize a two-dimension array? Very simple, like this. Okay, so come on, tell me one thing. What do you think? M will have how many rows now? 3 rows. And each row will have how many columns? Well, 2 columns. See, over here you will see nesting of braces. So these are the outer braces, inside which there are 3 inner braces, and that's why there will be 3 rows. Each inner brace has 2 elements, so that's why each row will have 2 columns, so the array will look like this. Okay, all right. So one minute, I hope you copied this. Okay, so once again, quickly copy this. And once again, over here also you cannot write new. Okay, and you cannot mention the dimensions over here. All right. Now the next topic over here, okay, slightly tricky and confusing, is jagged arrays, also called variable sized arrays, also called irregular dimensional arrays. Now this is something which you cannot do in C language, but you can do in Java. So understand this properly. Now let's say I write a statement like this. Now, do you see something missing over here? Of course, yes. See carefully, the column is not mentioned. The column dimension is not mentioned over here. So this statement is correct, and what this statement will do is it will create a matrix called M, where M will have 3 empty rows. That means M will have 3 rows, but currently those rows do not have any columns, they are empty. So it sounds quite unusual, but it is that way. Now, if you want to put columns inside M, you have to do it separately for each row. So I'll write a statement like this, like this, like this. So over here, I wrote M of 0 equal to new int 1. So what will happen is row number 0 will get 1 column. Row number 1 will get 2 columns. Row number 2 will get 1 column. I'm sure some of you are confused, so your confusion will go away when you see this diagram. So this is what a jagged array is. This is a variable sized array in which different rows can have different number of columns. Now you can also create a variable sized array in another way, like this. Now do one thing, come on, let's take this as an exercise. Do one thing, copy all this, and draw the diagram for matrix D on your own. Come on, do that. So I hope you have drawn the diagram, and that diagram will look like this. So the first row will have 2 columns 10, 20. Second row will have 4 columns 40, 50, 60, 70. And third row will have 3 columns 80, 90, 100. Okay. And once again, as I told you, over here you cannot write array dimensions. Okay. Okay, so I hope you have copied all this. Okay, now after copying all this, I want you to refer your printed notes for the next topic. So in your printed notes, what we will do is we will study something called array copy. Okay, and one more concept with the help of this program. Okay, so see, now this is your printed notes. Now over here, there is a question which says write a Java program to demonstrate the concept of number 1 array length and number 2 array copy. So let's study these two concepts. The first concept, array length, I think you already know this. Now have a look at this particular statement and tell me what is the name of the array. Well, it is X. How many elements are there in the array? 5. Okay. Now in Java there is a rule, and that rule is that whenever you have an array in Java, with that array you can always write dot length, this thing. So whenever you write array dot length, you will get a number of elements in that array. So over here I am writing n is equal to x dot length, and then I am writing one SOP, length of the array x is this. So come on, very simple, tell me what will be the output over here. The output is simple, length of the array x is how much? 5. So this is what the output will be. Look over here. Okay. Alright. So this was the first concept which I explained you. This was the first concept. Okay. The concept of array length. Now let's understand the concept of array copy. Okay. Now pay attention. It is simple, but some of you may get confused. Okay. Now have a look at this statement. So in this statement, what I'm doing is I'm creating a new array called Z. So Z is an altogether new array. Don't forget X already exists. Okay, look at the mouse pointer. Okay, X already exists, and now I create one more array called Z. Okay. Now in Java there is a class called system, and inside system there is a method, there is a function called array copy. So when you write system dot array copy, the dot over here means of. So it means there is a method array copy of system, that way. Okay. All right. Now what this method array copy will do? So the name itself tells you what it will do. It will copy elements of one array into another. I repeat, it will copy elements of one array into another. So now this array copy will take 5 parameters, okay, and will do its work of array copying. Now how exactly will it work? So be attentive. I have given the description of array copy over here. Okay, I have given the description of array copy over here. Okay, but let's not read the description now. Let's directly understand how things will work over here. So see. Now over here, what array copy will do is, look at this mouse pointer. Okay, the array copy method will copy 3 elements of X starting from position 2. Stop here for a minute. Okay, let's repeat this much. It will copy 3 elements of X starting from position 2. Now stop here again and tell me which are the 3 elements of X starting from position 2. So those 3 elements are 33, 44, 55. Okay. Now these 3 elements will be copied in the array Z starting from position 0. I repeat, these 3 elements will be copied in Z, okay, starting from position 0. So if you are really paying attention, tell me what is Z of 0? 33, Z of 1, 44, Z of 2, 55. Now it's not done. Wait, something else is there. Now over here there is an SOP which says elements of array Z are as shown. And there is a for loop. In this for loop, see carefully, I is taking values from where to where? I is taking values from 0 to 4 because I is less than 5. And every time I'm printing Z of I. Okay. So when the loop executes first time, Z of I means Z of 0. What will be displayed? 11. Z of 1. I'm sorry, I goofed up. I'll repeat again. When I is 0, the loop executes first time and Z of 0 will be displayed. So what will be displayed? 33. Second time Z of 1, 44. Third time Z of 2, 55. Now don't forget that this SOP will execute 2 more times. Okay. And it will display Z of 3 and Z of 4. But we have not filled any elements in Z of 3 and Z of 4. So what do you think will be displayed? Garbage value? No, there is no concept of garbage value in Java. Garbage value exists in C, not in Java. So look at this output. This is the output. So what do you see in Z of 3 and Z of 4? You see 2 zeros. Now you must be wondering that from where the 2 zeros have come. Okay. So there is a rule in Java and the rule says that by default all the elements of an array are initialized to 0. I repeat, by default all the elements of the array are initialized to I repeat again, in Java by default all array elements are initialized to 0. So that's why the last 2 elements became 0. Let me see how attentive you are. Let's say I remove this statement totally. Okay, I don't write this statement, but the remaining statements are as it is. That means this statement is there. Okay, this SOP is there, for loop is there, everything is there. But this system.array copy is not there. So tell me, will the compiler report an error? No. So now what will be the output over here? It will be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 5 zeros. Okay. So what you do is, what I suggest is, okay, you write a note in your own words. The first note should be that in Java, the elements of the array are initialized to 0 by default. And the second note should be that you make this statement number 1, this one. And then you write that if you remove statement number 1, the last output will be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. So write the 2 notes over here in your own words. Come on. Okay, so I hope you did that. Now, after understanding all these concepts about an array, what we'll do is we'll do an actual program on array. So this will help you understand array in a better way. Now the question says write a Java program to find average of given n integers. So over here what is going to happen, the user will give us some integers. We will store those integers in an array. Then we'll find the sum of all these elements and eventually we'll find the average of those elements. Okay. So I hope you understood the question. So let's start with the program. Now this time I'll use input stream reader buffered reader. Okay. So If I'm using input stream reader, buffer reader, I'll start with import java.io.star. The class is called average. In the first line of void main, I'll write throws IO exception and these two normal statements. So nothing is new till here. Now, because of lack of space, I am writing two declarations in one line. I am creating some integer variables I, N, S, okay, and then there is a variable sum initialized to 0 and sum is of data type double. Now over here n is going to be the number of elements, which is always an integer, okay. I will be using the for loop, okay. I think I have declared this S without any reason. I think it is not required, okay. So you may not copy this comma S, alright. Anyway, let's move ahead. Now over here there is this variable sum and this variable sum is initialized to 0. Now what do you think this variable sum will store? So it will store the sum of all the array elements. Now the moment I said this, some of you may have a doubt in your mind. Can you pause the video and can you think about some doubt which you should have over here? Well, some of you will have a doubt in your mind that the array over here will be of n integers. So the sum of n integers should be of data type int. So the doubt in your mind could be that why the sum is of data type double. Why it is of data type double, I will tell you at the end of the program. Okay, so let's move ahead. Now whenever we do any program on array, there are some statements which will be always same. Okay, so pay good attention over here. Now first of all, I'll ask the user to enter the number of elements. Okay, so over here the cursor will blink, the user will enter the number of elements. Let's say the user enters 3. Now I should give this 3 to whom? To n. Now n is of what data type? Int. So tell me what statement will come over here? N equal to, come on, integer.parseInt stdin.readline. So n got the value 3, which means now there will be 3 elements in the array. Now till here, have you allocated memory to the array? No, you haven't. So now you will write this statement to allocate memory. So what this statement will do is, look at the mouse pointer and correspondingly what I am saying. At runtime, it will allocate memory for an integer array x having n elements. So n is 3, so memory will be allocated for an integer array x of 3 elements. Before I proceed, answer a question that memory is allocated to array at what time? Compile time or runtime? Runtime. See over here, it is very easy to figure out that memory is allocated to array at runtime. Now why did I say easy to figure out? See, please understand, I am asking the user enter the number of elements. So I will ask the user, enter the number of elements at what time? Obviously runtime, obviously during execution. So I first ask the user to give me the number of elements and then I am allocating memory to array. So obviously memory is allocated at runtime. Now this is something which is different from C language. In C language what we do is we allocate memory to array at compile time. Okay. Anyway, let's move ahead. So till here you have created an array of 3 elements. Now what do you think is the next thing you will ask the user? So quite obvious, you will tell the user to enter the integer elements. Now how many integer elements the user will enter? 3. So for that I will write a for loop. Now whenever you want to deal with an array, you write a standard for loop. Many of you must be already knowing it. You will write for I equal to 0 because position number starts with 0, I less than n and I plus plus. Let me just write the statements inside this and then I'll explain you in great detail. Now the for loop over here will execute 3 times. Why 3 times? Because n is 3. So this will become for I equal to 0, I less than 3, I plus plus. So I will take values 0, 1, 2 and every time I will read the element from the user and I will store it in x of I. Because the user is going to enter an integer, I wrote this integer.parseInt stdin.readline. This will do the work of reading the integer and I'll store it in x of I. And then don't forget, we'll find the sum of these array elements. Now, if you have been my student earlier, then tell me, how do we find sum? See, whenever we want to find sum, we write a statement like this. Sum equal to sum plus something. Now, over here, what that something will be? So, that something will be x of I. Alright. Now, when the for loop ends, I will have the sum with me. I will divide the sum by n and I'll get the average. So within this SOP, I will display the average of given integers. Now what I will do is I'll explain you all this with the help of a table. Okay. So this is the table where I have x of I. There is this variable sum which is initialized to 0. Okay. Now before I start with the table, let me again tell you one thing. In this entire program, I have not used this variable s, but I have still declared it by mistake. So tell me one thing, if I don't use a variable, but if I still declare the variable, is it okay? Yes, it is. The compiler won't report an error, but you should not do that. So when you copy this program later on, you should remove this comma s. Okay. Anyway, now let's start with the explanation. We assume that n is 3. Now when I is 0, compiler will check whether I is less than n, whether 0 is less than 3. True or false? True, and the compiler enters the for loop. Now here the compiler sees this part integer.parseInt stdin.readline. Now don't forget, before this we have told the user enter the integer elements. So the user will enter some integer element. Let's say the user, look over here, follow the mouse pointer. Here let's say the user enters 2. So tell me one thing, this 2 will be now assigned to whom? Well, it will be assigned to x of I. And what is x of I? X of I is x of 0. So x of 0 will be now assigned to, okay. Now this statement executes. So sum is equal to old sum plus x of I. So this will become 0 plus 2 equal to 2, okay. Now this is the closing brace of for loop. Now this is the loop. So from here the compiler goes back over here. I plus plus I takes what value? 1. Is 1 less than 3? True. Again compiler enters. Again the cursor will blink. User will type something like, let's say 5. Tell me 5 will be assigned to whom? It will be assigned to x of 1. Okay. Sum is equal to sum plus x of I. This time you tell me what will come over here. 2 plus 5 equal to 7. Okay. Again compiler goes to I plus plus. I takes the value 2. Again the same old story. 2 is less than 3. Compiler enters the loop. The user will type a number, let's say 3. Okay. Now 3 is assigned to x of 2. Okay, 3 is assigned to x of 2. Okay. Sum is equal to sum plus x of I. So over here we have 7 plus 3 equal to how much? Well, 7 plus 3 equal to, just a minute, I think I made a mistake over here. Let me correct it right away. Okay, let me make it 3 and let me make this 10. Okay, alright. Alright, so sum is equal to sum plus x of I. So when you do sum is equal to sum plus x of I, you get 7 plus 3 is equal to 10. Okay. After this, again the compiler goes to I plus plus. I takes the value. What value? See, I was 2. So what value I will take? I will take the value 3. So is 3 less than 3? False, and the loop will stop. Now when the loop has stopped, please understand what we have achieved. See, what we have achieved is we have stored 3 elements in the array, and we have also found the sum of those 3 elements. So this statement has stored 3 elements in the array, and this statement has found the sum of those 3 elements. Okay. Alright. Now over here I am writing average of given integers is sum divided by n. So sum is 10, n is 3. So what will be displayed? 3.333 will be displayed. Okay. Now coming back over here, as I told you, some of you may be having a doubt that why that sum is of data type double. In our example, sum turned out to be 10, which is an integer. So why did I take double over here? So the answer is very simple. If I keep sum of data type int, listen to this carefully. If I keep sum of data type int, then over here there will be a problem. What will happen is n is an integer and sum is also an integer. Then integer divided by integer will give me an integer. So the answer will turn out to be 3 and not 3.3. So that's why I kept sum of data type double. Okay. So I hope you understood all this. Now copy this entire screen, copy the program and copy the working also. Always copy the working. So here we complete the arrays.